It's probably just me being a procrastinator, but despite the huge backlog of games that I have that I want to play, I keep going back to certain ones that I've played through many times over. This is a great example of that, and this time around I figured it would be an interesting change of pace to play something from the 7th generation once again. That's right, another sort of modern game. I know they just discontinued the Xbox 360, but that doesn't make it retro just yet. But then again, this is not just any 7th generation game, it's the goddamn Batman, and it is the best possible representation of the character that has existed so far, if you ask me. Batman Arkham Asylum begins with the Batmobile tearing through Gotham City, personally transporting his longtime adversary, the Joker, to Arkham Asylum, an institution long associated with detaining many of Batman's rogues gallery. Located on an island off the coast of Gotham, but getting delivered to Arkham was all part of the Clown Prince of Crime's plan, as he and his sidekick Harley Quinn have set in motion a scheme to take over the asylum and make it his base of operations for a full-on assault of Gotham City. Coincidentally, there was a fire at the Blackgate prison, so many of the Joker's cronies were all transferred to Arkham. So, in short, Batman's on his own against every thug, criminal, and lunatic that are currently residing in the asylum, and it's up to you to stop them. The game has a very cinematic style to it, and Rocksteady Studios created a beautifully dark and gloomy atmosphere for this game to take place. The whole of the asylum and other locations on the island are in this state of terrible disrepair, and while I doubt any real-life institution would ever be allowed to appear so unsafe, but for this game it works perfectly. Adding to the absolutely remarkable presentation, Batman and other characters are voiced by a cast of extremely talented voice actors, including Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, and Arlene Sorkin, reprising their roles from the original animated series.
Nicely done, Bats. You deserve a prize.
This really contributes a lot to what makes this game so special. In fact, I think the voice acting and the dialogue are at its best in this game over the others in the series. But what really makes this game is its gameplay. You get to use an arsenal of familiar Batman tools such as batarangs, the Batclaw, grappling lines, and signal jammers. You also get to lay the beat down on your enemies in what is often called a free-flowing combat system. It's possible to string together combinations of dozens of attacks in a row or more. There's also an experience system, and as you level up, you earn upgrades to your gadgets and attacks. You travel to and from sections of the island by climbing, swinging, gliding, and running around in a way that really feels like you're controlling Batman. Most of the traveling is fairly easy, but there are some areas that can be a little tricky. And then there's the Scarecrow segments, which test both your sense of timing and platforming skills. And speaking of the Scarecrow, the way they present him in this game, I bet it could give Freddy Krueger some bad dreams.
You failed. Now suffer.
Him and Killer Croc have some of the most exciting moments of gameplay in the whole game. Unfortunately, the rest of the boss battles are pretty repetitive, which is kind of a letdown with how well the rest of the game was done. On top of the action and fighting segments, there is a lot of great problem solving here. After all, you are playing as Batman, the world's greatest detective. There are areas of the game where you must defeat thugs by stealth or use the signal jammer or a carefully aimed batarang to activate or deactivate puzzles. Batman has something called detective mode, which he can use to help with this part, enabling you to find clues, see upcoming thugs, or just other things you might not notice in the halls of the asylum or other areas of the game. And lastly, there's the collecting element. This is something I'm normally not a fan of in video games, but here it is done exceptionally well. There are a number of interview tapes, maps, and of course the Riddler trophies, among other things hidden throughout the game, sometimes in plain sight. While finding them unlocks art, story, and challenge modes, which are tests of your combat skills, which I'm not really all that big a fan of, finding all the various artifacts is really quite enjoyable, especially when you're greeted with the reactions from the Riddler, Edward Nygma himself, who grows increasingly frustrated as you discover his clues and trophies.
So, you found it at last. What have you been doing with your time?
If you're a Batman fan, there's no question about whether or not I'm going to recommend this one to you. Also, If you're a fan of adventure games and action titles, this is definitely one to check out. I know I've been talking a little bit more about games from the 2000s era, and that doesn't mean I'm going to move away from retro ever. I mean, look at the name of the show. But there's a few games out there which I think qualify as modern classics, and this is one of them in my opinion. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.